50 years before the infamous Roswell incident, a curious sighting across at least 5 of the American states, where a ship in the sky was seen far and wide, and at the time, residents reported that perhaps someone had invented an airship, and perhaps these were just test flights of the new apparatus. The ship eventually came down in 1897 in Aurora, Texas, and what was reported was that the ship was made of a strange metallic, some sort of silver aluminium hybrid. The pilot was found to have papers with hieroglyphics on them, and that the pilot himself was not of this earth. In fact, one astronomer at the time, who was an expert, brought into this investigation, and he speculated that perhaps the pilot had come from the planet Mars. Wait till you hear this. These were in the days of the American gold rush. A scoop for ice cream was invented, and the first electric candy machines were rolled out across the country. Also in the headlines across the country, a mysterious airship flying about. Interestingly, the US Navy were the first Americans to develop this airship. They did this in 1917 during World War I, but aeronauts were developing this method far sooner, since 1852, mainly in Europe. So it isn't unfeasible to consider one of these airships being in the sky over America in 1896 and in 1897, although it remains undocumented by the US government, if indeed that was the case. What do we know about this thing? On November the 23rd, and in the year 1896, a story originally reported by the San Francisco Chronicle was picked up by many newspapers across the United States, with headlines such as "All in the Air, a mysterious airship puzzles the people of California. Airship a fact, a son of Maine has mastered the secret," and the Boston Daily Journal said, "An airship, residents of Sacramento are treated to a rare sight, aerial navigation a reality." The newspapers all reported the same general story, and the story goes that at about 1 o'clock last Monday morning, the inhabitants of Sacramento, who were astir at that hour, claimed to have seen an airship passing rapidly over the city. Some merely said that they saw a bright light, while others went as far as to say that they saw a cigar-shaped flying machine and heard human voices coming from it. And that was reported in the Duluth News Tribune, November the 23rd, 1896. The best known of the mystery airship waves began in California in 1896, and after that, reports and accounts of similar sightings came from other areas, generally moving eastward across the country. Although the majority of witnesses reported seeing only a light or a group of lights in the night sky, some accounts during the airship wave claim that occupants were visible in some of the crafts, and encounters with the pilot or crew were occasionally reported as well. These occupants often appeared to be human, though their behaviour, mannerisms and clothing were sometimes reported to be unusual. Sometimes the apparent humans claimed to be from the planet Mars. The initial wave of airship sightings took place primarily in California from November the 17th through late December in 1896, but there was a few isolated cases reported during January 1897. There were also a handful of reports of the airship in Oregon, Washington and British Columbia. Many newspapers' accounts described the sightings as part of a transcontinental flight by the airship's inventor. The November the 18th, 1896 editions of the Sacramento Bee and the San Francisco Call published accounts of the first sighting, which had taken place the night before. On the evening of November the 17th, 1896, citizens of Sacramento reported a bright light moving slowly across the sky at an estimated elevation of 1,000 feet. Some witnesses said they could discern a large dark shape behind the light. One witness, named R.L. Lowry, claimed that he heard a voice from the craft issuing commands to increase elevation in order to avoid hitting a church steeple. Lowry further described the craft as being powered by 2 men exerting themselves on bicycle pedals. Above the pedalling men seemed to be a passenger compartment which lay under the main body of the aircraft. A bright light was mounted on the front end, and some witnesses reported the sound of talking or singing as the craft passed by overhead. On February the 2nd, 1897, the Omaha Bee reported a sighting over Hastings in Nebraska. The previous day, several Hastings people report that an aircraft or something of that kind had been sailing around the west end of this city. A close watch is being kept for its reappearance, and on February 5th, the Bee reported that the airship had been sighted again near the town of Innavale, around 40 miles south of Hastings. Some authors have argued that the airship reports were genuine accounts of a human-invented airship. Steerable airships had been publicly flown in the United States since 1863, and numerous inventors were working on airship and aircraft designs. Thomas Edison was so widely speculated to be the mind behind the alleged airship sightings that in 1897 he was forced to issue a strongly worded statement denying his responsibility. Early sources citing the extraterrestrial hypothesis, all from 1897, include the Washington Times, which speculated that the airships were a party from Mars, and the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, which suggested of the airships, these may be visitors from Mars, fearful at the last of invading the planet they had been seeking. In 1909, a letter printed in the Otago Daily Times in New Zealand suggested that the mystery airship sightings over America, then being reported in the country, were due to the Martian atomic-powered spaceships. But what do you guys think about this anyway? Comments below. And as always, thank you for watching.